Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew.
Glory to you, Lord.
The Pharisees went off and plotted how they might entrap Jesus in speech. They sent their disciples to him with the Herodians, saying, "Teacher, we know that you are a truthful man, and that you teach the way of God in accordance with the truth. And you are not concerned with anyone's opinion, for you do not regard a person's status. Tell us then, what is your opinion? Is it lawful to pay the census tax to Caesar or not?" Knowing their malice, Jesus said, "Why are you testing me, you hypocrites? Show me the coin that pays the census tax." Then they handed him the Roman coin. He said to them, "Whose image is this, and whose inscription?" They replied, "Caesar's." At that he said to them, "Then repay to Caesar what belongs to Caesar, and to God what belongs to God." The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
The question posed to Jesus this morning was an attempt to draw him into the world of politics. Now, as you're well aware, today politics is a very bad name. Politicians are frequently caricatured and laughed at. Thus, many Christians tend to opt out of the affairs of the world and leave to others dangerous, daring, and responsible things, such as politics, lawmaking, and business. And when they do this, they are leaving these things to others who may not be motivated by Christian values and principles. Christians should not shrink from public office, but see it as a chance to serve their fellow men and women and God. The Pharisees opted out of real life and kept pretty much to themselves. And the result was a vain religiousness which had little or nothing to do with life. Some of you will remember Dag Hammarskjöld, who was Secretary General in the UN when he died in a plane crash in Central Africa in 1961 at the age of 56. And the world lost a great servant of peace. He was a rare person for whom public office was not simply a career or a means of achieving power, but a religious vocation, a way of being faithful to God. He drew inspiration from the Old Testament prophets. He said, "Indifference to evil is worse than evil itself. And in a free society, some are guilty, but all are responsible." Gandhi, of course, is another example of a deeply religious man who involved himself in politics. He said, "I'm in politics because I cannot separate life from belief. Because I believe in God, and so I enter into politics." Politics is my service to God. And yet, Nelson Mandela is yet another example. Mandela tells us how when he began to get interested in politics, a friend tried to warn him off, saying, "Politics brings out the worst in people. It's the source of trouble and corruption and should be avoided at all costs." Fortunately for South Africa and for the world, Mandela ignored his advice. I think you might agree with me that it's a great pity that politics is so lowly regarded. Politics plays a vital role in creating the kind of society in which we live. What greater vocation is there than to assume responsibility for local, national, and international affairs, to work for peace and justice in the world, and for the betterment of human life for all? Dag Hammarskjöld said at another time, "No life is more satisfactory than that of selfless service to your community, to your country, and to humanity." But politics is not an easy profession, and the temptations are great. The chief temptation is to promote one's own good rather than the good of society. It's not easy for a Christian to be involved in politics and business today. It means that he or she is God's servant and also Caesar's servant. Jesus' words, "Give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar and to God what belongs to God," is only a principle. We have to work out the implications of that. And in practice, it may not always be easy to draw a clear line between the civil sphere and the religious sphere. The lines of division are not clearly marked. The boundaries are often blurred, and areas overlap. Of course, for the believer, in a sense, everything is given to God, even what is given to Caesar. But if it is a question of having to choose one over the other, the Christian has only one choice. That's why groups like a parish social justice committee and the New Mexico Power and Light's concern for environmental issues, and Albuquerque Interfaith's community organizing efforts are so important. Its members not only educate us in social justice teaching of our faith, but also surface grassroots issues in our neighborhoods, in our city, in our country, that need to be addressed by men and women we elect. And the issues often have to do with justice and fairness and sensitivity toward the poor and the marginated. What history shows unequivocally is that separation of church and state is absolutely essential. However, when Jesus said, "Give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar and to God what belongs to God," his assumption was that Caesar's claim would be just, honest, and fair. He was not giving a blank check to Caesar. True Christians are at one and the same time good citizens in their country, state, and city, as well as good citizens in the kingdom of God. They will fail neither in their responsibility to God nor to their fellow citizens. Our first and our deepest loyalty is to God, To God alone we render worship. But in other things we gladly acknowledge and work with the secular powers, praying that they will govern wisely and justly. And when they do not, we must speak out and act.